Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and it's Wednesday. Let's create. We are in the month of April, and one of the exciting things that happens at close to my heart during this month, this year at least, is we are having our cardstock carnival. And so I thought tonight I would show you a card that focuses on cardstock. And I'm just trying to get my video going here. Sorry, a little disjointed there. If you're popping on to watch, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. But for some reason, my laptop isn't working with the videos, and so I've got my phone going now, and that works just fine. Hey, Joanne, nice to see you watching. Ellie's here too. Heather, hello, Heather, and Karen. Awesome, nice to see you guys all watching. I gave you guys a little bit of extra time to find me this evening because I'm a few minutes late. I think I'm about 10 minutes late. So, for those of you who are waiting and wondering when it was going to happen, ta-da, we're here. Now, one thing that you may have noticed recently is that Close to My Heart started carrying 5x7 card bases, and that's pretty exciting for those of you who like working with a larger card base. And so this is one of our 5x7s, and I'm going to be making that larger size card today. I think this might be the first one I've done on a live video. And they come pre-scored. One side has a bump and one side has a dip. And just like always, we're going to fold it with the bump side to the inside. Just make sure everything lines up. And crease down our card. Just like that. Then we are going to do a little bit of cutting on our card, which seems a little odd, but that's how this card goes. And sometimes we have to do things that are just a little bit different for fun. And so what we're going to do is we're going to grab our paper trimmer, and I think you guys are going to love the effect that this card makes. You may have seen it because I've seen quite a few of them recently. And so let's get started. So we're going to take our 5x7, we're going to open it back up. Okay. And then we're going to put it on our trimmer, and I'm going to cut some 3/4 inch strips off of my card. So the card base starts out at 10 inches. So we're going to cut a 3/4 inch strip all the way down and just set it to the side there. And then we're going to cut another 3/4 inch strip, and we're going to work our way across. There's 2. And there's 3. It's always funny when you start making a card by chopping up the card base, right? It's always a mystery when that happens. What is she doing? What was the point of the card base? And then we're going to cut one more. Just like that. So that gives us a total of 5 strips that we have cut. We now have 1.25 inches left before we get to our crease. So now we're going to cut a 1/2 inch strip. So let me just move it over to a 1/2 inch. And this is just extra. We can put it aside, save it for a journal strip, use it for stamping. And we're going to leave the rest of our card base intact. So we have our crease and we have a 3/4 inch strip attached to it. And that's all we need our paper trimmer for right now. Who's excited to see what's going to happen now that we've destroyed our card base? Hey, Robin, how's it going? Deborah's here too, and Carol's here. Hey, Trudy. Good evening, good evening. So we have our card base now with our 3/4 inch flap. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strips of 3/4 inch cardstock. And then I want to bring in 2 more pieces of 3/4 inch cardstock, but this time they are cut to 5 inches long. Okay, these ones here are 7 inches because we cut them off the length of our card. But these two are going to be 3/4 of an inch by 5 inches. So I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to line my card up on my Versamat. Now this will be a little bit different because I'm not right down at the 0 at the bottom. But what I want to do is I want to find the center of my card. So this is a 7-inch tall card. And so it'll be 3.5 inches up. 1, 2, 3.5. And there is our half right there. 3.5. And so this 3/4 inch strip will sit smack dab in between the 3 and the 4 if you were measuring from the bottom. Okay, so you want to center it in between 3 and 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my liquid glue for this. I can get the lid off. Hopefully it's running. And on the end here, I'm going to make a little square of glue, as long as the glue is coming out. One moment, please. I had my glue running earlier. There we go. A 3/4 inch square, or maybe a little less, of glue. Right like that. So just a bit of glue on the end. And then we're going to come up 1, 2, 3. We're going to go in between the 3 and the 4. So if I'm lining it up on the Versamat, it's right in the center of those 2 inches. And I'm going to push it all the way to the other side. Make sure we're even because I want it right in the center of my card. And then I can close down the 3/4 inch flap on the other side. So it's tucked right underneath, and now it's glued to it. So now our card front looks like this. Very fancy, I know. Super fancy, but this is the beginning of what we want to create. Okay? Ina, you haven't missed a whole lot yet, other than chopping up our card base. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to then take all of our strips. We're going to start here at the outside, and we're going to line it up back on our card base. And we're going to leave a little gap in between each one, because what we're kind of creating is a little fence, a little springtime white picket fence for our card. So we're going to just kind of, we're doing this without glue because we want to make sure we've got all our spaces. And there's just enough space for a little gap in between each piece, just like that. Okay? So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up this far out one, the farthest to the right, and I'm going to add some glue just on that horizontal strip, just big enough for my strip of cardstock. Oops, I shifted them all, well done. And I can line it up right on the edge of that card base, all the way from top to bottom. So this one is nice and easy because I've got a way to make sure it's straight all the way from top to bottom, and just glue that on down. Okay, and now I've messed up my spacing because, you know, that's how we roll sometimes. And kind of spread them all back out, just like that. Nice. And maybe I will plunk something on there to keep it from bumping around. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to glue down the other 4 pieces. And because we've got them spaced out like this, we can just pick them up one at a time and add a little square of glue on that horizontal piece, like so. And now we want to make sure that we're centering it in the space that we left and lining it up straight from top to bottom as much as we can. A little off here and there won't matter as long as they're all fitting on there in the end. And add another little square glue to the next one. So this is like paper crafting in a nutshell, what we're doing right here. We take perfectly good pieces of paper and we cut them apart and then we glue them back together. Isn't that paper crafting in a nutshell? Yes, Karen, you could use a piece of washi tape to hold it in place. You sure could. Hey, Shannon. And there we go. Nice little square of glue. You want to put enough to hold, but not so much it's going to squish everywhere, because we don't want to go to open our card when we're all done sticking these all down and find out that we've glued our card shut. That would not be what Tiggers like best, as I usually say to my kids. It's not something that Tiggers like best. When you stick your card shut. Okay. There we go. And that one's a little bit crooked. I'll straighten that up quick and stick it down. Excellent. All right. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to add a little bit more reinforcement going across. So I've got a second piece of cardstock and I want to add some glue across here just on my vertical pieces all the way across like that. And then we can just line it up with the piece that's underneath and stick it down. Now when we're all done creating, we may find that there's little bits to trim off, and we will do that all at the end once we're all done everything. Okay, now we have hopefully not glued it all together. Hooray, look at that. It opens and closes, but you can see that our card front is still kind of like wibbly wobbly because our top and bottom are not secure. So what I have are 4 pieces of 1/4 inch by 5 inch white daisy cardstock. So 1/4 inch, 4 pieces. And what we're going to do, we're going to use our Versamat again. We're going to line it up here on the Versamat. We're going to take, I've found that this is the easiest way to make sure it's going to be straight. I want to put these about 1/2 inch down. So I'm going to line these up about 1 inch down from the top. And then in the space right above, I'm just going to make a line on each of these vertical pieces. Just all the way across. And I'm using my piece of cardstock as my ruler. And then I can pick it up and use my Versamat to line it up so that the top of this 1/4 inch strip is 1/2 inch down from the top. Just like that. Lovely. And then we can go down to the bottom and do the same thing. So we'll lay this down just above the 3/4 inch mark. And then we'll use our glue and draw a line on all these vertical pieces all the way across just below. And now that we've had a nice straight line to follow, we can use our Versamat to line our piece up 1/2 inch above the bottom. Easy peasy. Love the Versamat for making sure things are lined up. Then we can open this up, give it a bit of a squish so it lays flat. And we're going to take our other 2 pieces of 1/4 inch cardstock, and we can just follow now the line that's kind of created by that little strip on the other side. Just go all the way across, adding some glue, and then line up our cardstock so that it matches what is on the other side. That's the great thing about having that, those spaces in between. Helps us line everything up. And then we can do the same thing down here. All the way across. Nice and straight. And we can add our cardstock lining it up with the horizontal line on the side, the front side, and there we go. I'm just gonna put the lid on this for a minute. And I can see here that I have a little bit of this sticking out. So we can flip it over. Actually, we'll go from the back. We'll go from the back and we will trim that little bit off. Just like that. Easy. So now we have a really fun design on the front of our card that looks like a beautiful backyard fence. Isn't that so pretty? Now this would be even fun if we wanted to do that wood grain technique where we take our card base before we start and we could do some dragging with our ink across it, just like we did at the History Makers crop. And we can do that with the extra pieces too, just drag across and cut them so that we have our grains going 2 different directions. That would be super fun. But I really like the look of this, where it's just nice and clean and white. And then we're going to bring in some things that I have die cut using this. Let me bring it in. I got to be careful because I've got my dies all chucked on here. This is the Layered Flowers Thin Cuts that is still available. And it's one that I have used many times and I keep coming back to. I don't have things on there properly, and they're just sitting on top rather than being under the plastic, so I gotta be careful. But this is great because you have flowers that you can layer up. So these two match, these two match, these two match, these ones match. And then you've got flower centers, you've got leaves, you've got stems, all sorts of fun things that you can use to create a gorgeous garden, and you can make them using just the cardstock and work with the colors of the cardstock. So I've gone ahead and I have cut out some pine leaves. And so these are actually been cut. This is on the light side of pine, and this one is cut on the dark side of pine. So there's a little bit of variation. So I've got a couple of each of those that I can play with. It's nice to always cut maybe even more than you need, just so that you have things to work with, right? When I get in the mood to cut things out, then I just go ahead and cut a bunch because sure as anything, I'm going to end up using them at some point. And then I've gone ahead and I've taken honey butter and I have cut the base and then the accent for this larger flower. And this part actually pops out like so. And this can actually be used as a really kind of fun floral accent. You can add it on to the layers of another flower, which is super fun. Today I'm just going to leave it. But when you're taking these layered flowers and you want to stick them together, and I've done it so that I have the darker side of honey butter on the back and then the lighter on the front, you want to take a look at the shape of them and find something that's distinct. And almost every single one of these flowers will have one petal that's kind of got a pointy bit on it. And I always go for that because that usually helps me line it up quick and easy, just like that. So it doesn't take a lot of thinking to get those lined up. So now what I want to do is I want to bring in my glue, and we're going to do the trick where I put some glue on my hand, or you can put it on some acetate or on your all-purpose mat or on a stamp block even, and then just tap, tap, tap your flower into it, and you'll pick up just the amount of glue that you need. Now let's find our pointy ones and lay them on top of each other. And then the best thing to line everything up is just to kind of put your fingers on either side of the petals, and it will kind of push everything into the right spot, and then give it a good old squish down, just like that. So there's the beginnings of one of our flowers. And then let me see, I've got some mulberry, and I've cut the base for this flower from the dark side and this one from the light side. And again, this has a center that you can pop out. You can use it as another layer for something else. And let me see, this one's got a big dip in the center, so that's going to match up with this one, right like that. That's super simple. So let's go ahead and stick those together. A little bit of glue. I find this trick of putting the glue on my hand helps me have less glue to worry about in the end. Because if I try to put it on the flower, I'm going to end up with too much glue. It's going to be smushing everywhere, and it's going to be kind of a messy proposition. So there we go. And then the last one, I went ahead and cut out of Periwinkle. And so I've got the base, and then I've got this one. We can pop the center out. Again, that can be used for another layer. And we can go ahead. This one has one with a really pointy bit. So those two will line up just like that. I think I need a smidge more glue here. There we go. And just tap, tap, tap in the glue all the way around. Find our pointy bit. Now I've got glue on my fingers because I stuck my finger in it. There we go. And then we can just line it up. I like it when they come together so simply, right? It doesn't take a lot of work to get them lined up. And then to add some centers to my flowers, I'm going to use my tweezers. And I've cut 3 different centers. This one is sort of an odd-shaped one, and I've used the black core cardstock, and it's got a stitched edge. And I can just tap that in the glue. And I'm going to add it to this largest flower here, like so. And then I think I have enough glue on my hand. We'll give it a try. I've got sort of a medium odd-shaped one here. And I'm going to stick that on this guy. And then my last one is another odd-shaped one, very much like the big one, but it's tiny and it's got a stitched edge. And let's see if we have enough glue left there. Yes, we do. Look at that. And then when your hand is mostly dry of glue, you can just rub like this, and all the residue will come off, and just swish it off into the trash. Easy peasy. Okay. So now we can go and try to kind of arrange ourselves, but I want to also add a sentiment, and so I thought I would bring in our stamp of the month because it's such a beautiful stamp set. So we've got the Sweet Tweets birds, which are super cute, and there's little branches and all sorts of fun things, but there's lovely sentiments. Just a note, you're so sweet, happy thoughts, birthday wishes, love, and sending. So for this card, I thought sending happy thoughts would be a really nice sentiment to add. And I'm just looking around. Oh, there it is. So I cut myself another piece of the 3/4 inch by 5 inch cardstock. And I went ahead and I just stamped it in black ink right on there like that. And I'm just going to layer that on. There's my adhesive. And because I'm putting it on a solid piece, I can just go ahead and stick it all the way across. This one hasn't got any slats in it. So we've got sending happy thoughts, which I think is a really nice sentiment for any occasion. And while we're playing with the Sweet Tweets, I thought it would be super fun to bring in one of the little birdies from Sweet Tweets as well. So I've gone ahead and stamped this on Almond cardstock. And I thought I would add a little bit extra to him by adding a little bit of inking just to the top of his head and down his back. Sort of this section that's kind of sectioned off there. So I've got my Toffee ink and my blending brush, and I am going to do this very haphazardly, if that's a good crafting term. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my blending brush, I'm going to dab it there for a second, and then I'm just going to gently rub it. I'm not masking anything. Oh, I didn't even hardly pick up any ink. But it's better to start off light. And just go ahead and add a little bit of Toffee to color him up just a tiny smidge, just to give him a little personality. And I'm just using kind of the tip of my blending brush so that I'm not getting ink everywhere. Just enough to make a little bit of difference. He's got his little winter feathers. They're all standing up on edge. It's starting to get warm outside. He's thinking it would be nice to build a nest somewhere. And has to start a little birdie family. So we're just giving him some ink. Just like that. Nice little coating. A little dusting. Okay, and then we can go ahead and fussy cut him out because you knew that there was going to have to be fussy cutting, correct? It's just a given. So we're going to rough cut first. There we go. If you wanted to be particular about your inking, you could mask and all that. But I just wanted a little bit of, just a little dusting of color. Doesn't have to be too much. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut. I'm going to leave a nice little halo around him and pivot my paper as I go. One thing about the stamps of the month, if you're somebody who likes the die cuts, the stamps of the month do not come with die cuts. So if you want to have them cut out, there is fussy cutting involved. But if you're really desperate and you don't like fussy cutting, you can always find a friend who does love it like me and say, hey, I need some birdies. I used to do that at crops sometimes. I would fussy cut things for people because I just love it. And we're just going to go all the way around. I love how chubby his little belly looks. Doesn't he look like a very contented birdie? And then when we get to his little ruffly feathers on top, we're just going to kind of jiggle-jaggle our paper. Oh, goodness, my eyes started watering, so now I'm going to cough. All the way around and down and around. He's so cute. Oh my gosh. He reminds me of just like all the little brown chickadees and little sparrows and things that are out right now. I'm going to take a sip of my water quick here. There we go. Okay, so we got our little birdie, we've got all our flowers, we've got our sentiment on there. So let's go ahead and get him stuck on. So we're just going to kind of lay things on here dry. I thought this little birdie's got to be up kind of perched on there like that. We can't go to the top of the fence because, well, he'd be off the fence. But let's kind of create a little bit of a spot for him here. Trying to decide. I think we'll give him some little leafies. Like that. That one's going to kind of disappear behind him, but that's okay. And then we've got our flowers. Let's start with our big one. Give it a nice home to rest on. And then add in our smaller ones. Like so. And then some more little greeneries we can tuck in there like that. Maybe right tucked in, maybe underneath both. I always like to do everything before I start sticking everything down, because then I kind of know where things are going. I'm thinking that I kind of like this actually poking up like that. Kind of creates a little bit of layering. And then we can tuck a little leaf down here. I think I'm trying to slide it inside the layers. Oh, pardon me. Sorry about that. We turned our air conditioning on today. It got so warm in our house. And I think I needed that. Needed the air conditioning. Alrighty, look at that. Okay, I'm liking that. So now we can start sticking things down. So I'm going to start with my big leaves first. scooch some of the things out of the way, and let me just take a look where this is going to hit. Add a little bit along the stem, like that. We want to make sure that we stay on our card, but we also don't want to send any glue to the inside, so we have to be a little bit careful about that. Let's stick this leaf on. Adding a bit of glue. Tuck it under there like that. Ugh, my goodness. I'm all choked up. And this one we can go right down the stem, because it's going to sit on that straight up board, just like that. And then let's tuck our little leafies under. Like that. Oh my gosh, I love this pine color. I wasn't sure at first, and then as soon as I started playing with it, I was like, oh yes, we like the pine. Because, you know, my favorite was New England ivy. It's hard to beat that New England ivy, but boy, oh boy, this one has done it. All right, now I want to grab some foam tape, because we can add a little bit of dimension. Maybe I actually want the thick foam tape. There we go. And let's add some foam tape to this one. And a little foam tape to this one. And this yellow one I think will just stick down. So let me see. We're going to add some glue on the back. Quite often we don't do that. We add the glue onto the flower. But just because I want to make sure that I'm not sticking my glue where it doesn't belong, we're going to do it right on the backing. And then we can add our other little flowers with the foam tape. I am loving this. Oh, I said I was going to have this one. I didn't put it on quite the right angle. Now I've lifted everything because it's all stuck to the foam tape. How many of you do this? You stick it down, then you change your mind, and then you stick it down. I wanted that little leafy to go tucked under there like that. That's what I wanted. Oh, I've changed how it sat. Let me see. There we go. That's better. Stick that down. And then stick this back down. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. This is when the singing starts. When I start mumbling and singing and thinking all those things. Let's add a bit of glue on that too, because now we've lifted it a couple times. And tuck that on there right like that. And then our little pink flower over here. Just like that. So pretty. Now let's get this little guy on here. I'm trying to decide whether I want the leaf in front of him or have him in front of the leaf. I could even adjust where that leaf is a little bit so that it's still there. I think that's what I'll do. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip this leaf right off of the stem. Do a little stem surgery. Stick my little guy on here. Oh my gosh, so cute. So cute. Add some glue. Stick him on. So cheerful. And then I can add this little leaf back in, but in a little bit different position so that we can still enjoy it. Let me just tuck it down there maybe. Yes. Yes, yes. Just tuck it down so that it's not quite in front of him, but just a little bit in front of him. Oh my goodness, so cute. Now, I didn't even plan on any bling. Let me see what I've got. I have some very old Cake Day dots. Let me see if I've got any colors in there I want. Nope. Let me grab a different one from my collection here. Let's see. Do I want yellow? Do I want blue? Do I want green? Or green might be nice. I've got gray. I've got blue. Oh, I have the Periwinkle. Let's add some Periwinkle. Periwinkle. Because I don't use the Periwinkle ones very often. And it's just that tiny little touch down there. So let's grab some Periwinkle bling. And our piercing tool. And let's add just a little bit kind of up here. Let me see. Just there. And there. And there. That looks awesome. I hope you guys think so too. Let me put my lid on my glue. So there, we have created our whole card using just cardstock. We started out with our 5x7 card base, and first thing we did was we tore it all apart and created this fun picket fence technique on the front, creating the slats on the front and the back. Now, when you go to write your message, you're going to want to be a little bit subtle with your message, right? You don't want to use really dark ink and do it every which way. You could even write your message horizontally if you wanted, or you could have a secondary little card that flipped up and write your message under that little card, so then from the front it still looks like the nice white backing. And then, of course, we added our sentiment from the Sweet Tweet Stamp of the Month, our little cheerful little chickadee bird. I don't know if it's a chickadee, but we'll call it a chickadee. And then we have those layered flowers, thin cuts, all layered up. The honey butter, the periwinkle, and the mulberry, and as well the pine, using both the front and the back side of our cardstock to show off the different colors, and then a few little periwinkle dots to add a little bit more of that periwinkle color. So I hope you enjoyed seeing that technique of creating that picket fence on the front of the 5x7 card. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you again soon. Toodaloo! Bye!